What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that I've already seen before, but I have been itching to rewatch, and that is because it is from director Park Chan-wook. And over the past couple of years, Park Chan-wook has become one of my favorite directors. I've watched multiple of his movies, I've done multiple reviews for his movies on my channel, and this is a movie I saw around the year it came out. I'm pretty sure I saw this in the theater, but I did not know who Park Chan-wook was at the time. I was in my early 20s, still kind of like discovering everything I love about film. And I watched this movie because it starred Mia Wasikowska, who I absolutely love and still think is an incredibly underrated actress who does not get the level of attention that she deserves. I feel like anytime she's in a movie, she gives it 110% and always really impresses me in the roles that she's in. And I remember watching this movie for the first time and just thinking about like how offbeat and weird and strange and psychologically disturbing it is. And now familiarizing myself with Park Chan-wook's films over the years, it makes perfect sense that this movie was directed by him. But this was his first English language film, and it was written by someone else. And I'm very excited to talk about this movie with you today. And the film I'm going to be discussing is Stoker. Stoker is directed by Park Chan-wook. After India Stoker's father dies, her uncle Charlie, who she never knew existed, comes to live with her and her unstable mother. She comes to suspect this mysterious, charming man has ulterior motives and becomes increasingly infatuated with him. So, as I said, it has been years since I've watched this movie. 2013, so like 11 years to be precise, since I have seen this movie, and I loved this even more than the first time I watched it. It is awesome, it is eerie, it's uncomfortable, it's darkly comedic, it's psychologically disturbing, it's like hypersexualized in moments in ways that are very uncomfortable, and it's everything that makes Park Chan-wook so incredible as a director. I love the way that he is so unforgiving in his ability to dive into the human psyche and explore subject matter that is so deeply uncomfortable, but like poignant and interesting to watch. And I think like directors that take risks like that are my favorite. And I feel like this movie could even go further into it, but I think the way that he explores it, there's enough here that it just keeps you hooked for the brief hour and 35-minute runtime of the movie. And I'm really excited to tell you about it today. So at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to India Stoker, played by Mia Wasikowska, who lives at home with her mom, Evelyn, played by Nicole Kidman. And recently, her father had passed away in an automobile accident, and her mother is completely distraught by it. And India is pretty heartbroken. Her and her dad spent a lot of time together going hunting, and she was very close to her dad. And we can see early on in the film, she's kind of an outcast at school. She doesn't really have a whole lot of friends. And she gives a monologue right at the beginning of the movie, and she's such a fascinating character. We get the idea that like all of her senses are kind of heightened in the way that she hears things and how perceptive she is to the things around her, which has a really interesting opening sequence that I like a lot. So after the funeral, India's mom introduces her to Charlie, played by Matthew Goode, who is India's father's brother. So it's her uncle, and she's never met this guy before. He's never been a part of their life. So she's a little off put by it, but she's also enamored with him. She's like really curious as to what his deal is. And he starts getting very close to her mother. And throughout getting closer to her mother, some things start happening around the house. People start disappearing. Things are out of place. And she starts to wonder if her uncle is exactly who he says he is, or if he has much more sinister intentions. And the entirety of the film is exploring the relationship between India and her uncle. So as I said, I think this movie is incredible. I absolutely love everything about it. And the first thing I want to talk about is the cinematography and the editing in this film. This is a masterclass in cinematography and editing and sound design. This movie creates such an immersive environment within the first 5 minutes. The chaotic structure of this movie and the way that it cuts scene to scene, the way that it jumps around, the way that it utilizes sound to make you as an audience member feel uncomfortable is just incredible. And so much of the cinematography accompanies the themes that the movie is trying to convey. And even from the very first scene, there's some transitions that just absolutely blow my mind. There's a scene in particular that you'll see in a lot of reviews that it's like Nicole Kidman's hair transitioning into like a field of grass, and it's just amazing to see the transition from scene to scene. And Park Chan-wook has been a master of that his entire career, so it's not really a surprise that that happens in this movie. But I think utilizing the cinematography to just immediately immerse your audience in this very strange and unsettling world makes for a really easy watch. The performances here are absolutely exceptional. Mia Wasikowska plays like really cold and collected in this movie. She's very to herself. But I think like there's something about her performance here that is so commanding of your attention, because of the mystery surrounding her character and the things that her character does. And just the way that she eats up the screen time in this movie is really impressive. As I said, I've always really liked her as an actress, and I think this movie really showcases what makes her so special. Nicole Kidman's always great. I don't really have to say much about her. She's not in the movie a ton, but whenever she is in the movie, I think she does a really fantastic job. And Matthew Goode, who plays the uncle, does a really great job here too. I feel like he plays very much like inviting, friendly guy who you can just see very early on isn't all that he says that he is, which is what makes the movie really easy to kind of dive into and immerse yourself in, because you're constantly questioning his intentions. And I think that makes his chemistry between India really fascinating to watch. The two of them just, they pair really well together and make for a really fascinating viewing experience. And like I said, this movie, it's really all about the visuals. Everything in this movie that makes it interesting is in its visual presentation. And it dives into some really fascinating psychological concepts here. It gets pretty disturbing, especially when it comes to some of the sexual implications in here and some of the psychological implications that are a little bit more disturbing when it comes to like murder and thoughts of murder, which are really interesting, thinking about this family and India and where she came from and like the family bloodline and how things would pass across. It's really interesting and it gets your mind kind of turning. And what's really interesting is it's a relatively simplistic family drama that dives into a much more dark and disturbing place, which is something I can appreciate a lot. And I think that what makes the movie so fascinating is you can never really guess the twists and turns that it's going to take. And even rewatching it this time, I knew from my initial watch what direction it was going to go, but there were little bits and pieces that I'd forgotten about. The way Park Chan-wook gives you little hints of detail in the cinematography as you are watching the movie and how things unveil, just being along for the ride is really a fun experience. And this is one of those movies that I feel like going in as blindly as possible and knowing as little about it as you can is going to make the movie a much more fulfilling watch. And it's really just super entertaining. It's really disturbing and messed up. And I'm really looking forward to watching it again. I love Park Chan-wook. This is right up there with some of his best work. And if you've never seen it before, this is my high praise and recommendation. Go watch it immediately. So have you seen Stoker? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was incredible. I loved everything about it, and I'm already looking forward to watching it again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, it helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.